it's encouraging to hear that there's RChainers out there and others scattered around the world.
Yeah, it's I'm surprised at how many people here locally are involved in our chain. We've actually had a few our chain meetups, uh, a few 2018 and maybe one. No, we haven't had any this year, but yeah, it's uh, as the third generation blockchain. Hopefully, this will be one of the blockchains that reaches mass adoption.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that keeps me here is the fact that we're a co-op. I think that there's so much untapped potential in the marriage of co-op and crypto, and it's just so burgeoning. It's just super infantile at the moment, and
Hmm.
we all have to define it. We all have to kind of, the more energy we put into it, the more robust it will become. But you know, it's not without its problems and issues. But I do have a lot of belief that that marriage can really help to define whatever blockchain 3.0 becomes.
Hmm. And I like the strategy that Greg is pursuing as far as, trying to provide a solution that's going to showcase the large number of transactions per second, but it's in an industry where it's not mission critical. So, although, hey, when I download a song, I really like to get the song, but if I don't get the song, it doesn't have dire consequences. So I can understand the thoughts behind pursuing uh, the music industry uh, as a first initiative. And because I think a few weeks back when I was on a call, I think it was Fabian who posted, or someone posted an article about the growth of streaming and how the number of users that are subscribing to streaming services is growing exponentially, while sale of CDs have are decreasing significantly. So to see, though this pattern of growth over the past 3 to 5 years, I wasn't aware of this transition, but just to see the metrics is it helps me realize the value of the approach of pursuing our song.
Very cool. Yeah, because like if you were to examine other technologies, music has been the catalyst for many of them. The the very phone that we carry around in our hands started off as a music playing device. If you look at peer-to-peer file sharing, that was propagated by music initially. You can just count the various ways. So it's only logical for us to focus on music as the catalyst to further these networks.
Sure. Yeah, very good point.
Well, good morning, everybody. And I guess
Hello.
Mr. Meredith hasn't jumped into the call yet. Steve, thanks for rejoining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. And I always enjoy watching the replays of the of our song. So although I'm not here on occasions, I do try to keep up with everything.
Wonderful. Thank you. I see Mr. Benefo is here. Hey, Mr. Benefo. Thanks for coming.
Fabian, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. You didn't get to really engage with the group last week. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's quite all right.
All right. And good morning to everybody else. We don't have really a format or anything specific to dive into today, but I would like to invite Benefo to talk about or ask a few questions, because he and I have been in a conversation about a few things, and I think he might have some questions that some of us in the group could help answer.
Yeah, I do have a few questions, and I'm not sure that they are actual inquiries or just based on my curiosity. I'm rather interested in this platform and the concept as a musician, and in my formative years, I was a musician, actively playing in a band. The industry has changed considerably now, but back then, a lot of our chances of success was based on your image, not necessarily your sound or your talent or anything of that nature. Now the business has changed so much that I think that for the smaller artists, you have a much better chance of succeeding and garnering some type of attention just through some type of grassroots movement. And my interest in RSong is based on that. Just the idea that if you level the playing field in terms of the contracts and the amount of influence that just a normal person can have, I mean, there's no greater influence to possess than being paid fairly, right? Because then you're no longer just a peon or a serf. You're actually contributing to a marketplace in a meaningful manner because you're generating income. Mm-hmm. So I think that if RSong can facilitate that, it's very interesting. But also, the last 15 years or so, 18 years, I've been an IT operations guy. And so the combination of the two, it's just very interesting to me. I think as of late, in terms of blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies, I realize that there's a lot I feel there's a lot that I can learn about the industry and the promise. But one of the things that I find fascinating is money transfers. Fav and I were talking about this. Is one of the questions that he was alluding to, is that the idea of being paid fairly is, again, intriguing, and it would be groundbreaking and disruptive. But I just wonder in terms of the mechanics, because I've been reading about Stellar. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but it's a decentralized. Is anyone familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's for those who aren't, it's a platform that's emerging now, which would facilitate transfers for digital currency into fiat currency, which for me or for anyone who has sent money abroad, realize that Western Union charges a hefty sum for the transfers. And it's really sad, actually, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry per year, just these remittance payments. And if I'm paying my half brother in Ghana, if I'm giving him some money, which I do routinely, he's receiving less money because I'm paying Western Union fees. And so what Stellar is attempting to accomplish is to displace that, and the transaction fees would just be fractions of a penny.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering if within RSong's architecture, I'm not really familiar with it entirely, so I don't know how the payment structure, how it would work, how you would take the R-chain currency or the currency that was within your model and transfer that to other currencies.
We do have we're currently, R-chain has a currency called the Rock. The Rock is traded on a few different platforms. One of them is called KuCoin, and through KuCoin, it is there's a process, as it is with all different cryptocurrencies, that one would send money from their bank account to purchase it, and then also turn that Rock into fiat and put it back into their bank account. I invite Ned and Christian, if they want to contribute to that, or Ian, if you guys have some thoughts around what's happening with the wallet that is being created, and what do we know about how it'll be in the future once that wallet is established, and how people will be able to get their Rock and turn it into fiat. Ned, Christian, anybody?
I think some of that is still a work in progress. Let's see. Stellar has these liquidity pools that they maintain, and that is how they've kind of are dealing in some aspect with this fiat to crypto conversion. it's an issue that we will have to deal with, but you know, since we're focused on building the platform at this point, we haven't really, as far as I know, drilled down into that.
Yep, not yet. But to your
but yeah, definitely something we're going to have to take a look at.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of it. You know, I would venture to say that in the coming months, I mean, number one, we have a currency. Number two, the process of turning that currency into fiat isn't a click away. That's maybe 10 clicks. And the hope is that over the coming months, we will be able to shorten the clicks. That way, it'll be a much easier process to be able to turn the rock into a dollar.
Yeah,
Okay.
like right now, if you were someone who wanted to sign up on RSong, you would have to first convert your fiat into rock, which involves going to, I believe it's KuCoin's the only.
Yep.
So you go to KuCoin or KuCoin, and you do the KYC process. So you have to sign up with that exchange. It's pretty cumbersome. You have to give your photograph with your driver's license, and there's various hoops to jump through. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes. It could take a day or so. But once you're in, then you're in. Then you can continue to do it. It's just a one-time process. So then you're in KuCoin. Then what you have to do is you have to buy some Ether, because currently Rock is an ERC20 token, which is based on the Ethereum ERC20 protocol or whatever. So you have to buy some Ether. Then you have to that Ether to Rock, which is a fairly simple process within KuCoin. It takes a few seconds, and once you're used to doing it, it's not a big deal. Then you have some Rock, and then you can use that Rock in whatever way you want to on our chain's platform. So yeah, it's pretty cumbersome. It's not something that your average 13-year-old kid is going to, be wanting to do or being able to do even. But, it's a first step. And so a lot of what's going to be happening will be these early adopters. It'll be these people who are keeners, who are really into it, who, and in a way that might be a good filter for starting things off, because, there's a lot of stuff we have to work through. So
I think one of the points that will allow for a successful decentralized app to exist in the world is going to be how the architecture of that app puts blockchain in the background and makes it easy for the traditional user to use the platform. Because the more clicks and the more, what we want to make sure is that we build something that doesn't have a high barrier of entry. So to Benefo's point, as we just discussed, the idea of I'm playing my songs, I'm receiving a cryptocurrency. Now, how do I get that cryptocurrency out and turn it into a dollar? How many clicks do I need to move through? What website is my wallet going to exist in? These are things that we have to talk about and trying to identify the steps that it'll take to get to allowing things to be really easy in the future.
Yep, and I think it's fairly safe to assume that that's going to happen. Not that we should sit on our laurels by any stretch, but I think that as we plan things out, I think it's safe to assume that there will be a procedure over the next 2 to 5 years where the whole process will be much more streamlined. I don't know what other people think of that.
It's got to be less than that. It's got to be less than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing about Stellar and, the part of the whole kind of crypto winter is has to do with the regulators. A lot of it really kind of falls on the shoulders of the gatekeepers and how they're going to release this technology. And there's indicators over even in the last week that the SEC is kind of throwing out a little bit of helpful hints of things to come.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm wondering if, I mean, personally, as a former artist and possibly an artist in the future, I'm wondering if it would be some type of deterrent to adoption if, let's say, I didn't have any other source of income, which, you know, is probably not a good idea unless you're an established artist. But you'd really be reticent to limit your income, your resources to a currency that is not easily, it's not liquid. Yeah, that's the description that I'm gathering. That's my interpretation at this point. That if I'm streaming, if I'm very successful in the RSong environment, the ecosystem, and I'm generating a lot of streams and there's a lot of revenue headed to me, then it's not liquid revenue at this point. So that's probably Fabian's point in his comment, is that it would have to be a lot sooner than that, because it may discourage some people from adopting this from the artist's perspective.
Yep.
Man, will it ever? I mean, it's a major obstacle.
Well, I mean, in the music industry now, we already have people who are waiting months and years to get paid from record labels. We already have people who have thousands of dollars that are lost in this black box, and nobody knows where it went or where it's going to go. Like, people have lots of money lost, and between ASCAP or BMI or their label or their old agent or whatever it is, like they have, or like, you know, plays that were aggregated in a different country or through a streaming service that doesn't exist anymore, whatever. Like, people lose money all the time. So I think if we can make it so that the turnaround is within a couple of days, I think that's like a vast improvement on what we already have, you know?
Yeah, but it's not just about the turnaround. It's kind of, or the transparency or the black boxes and all that. I mean, that's absolutely super vital. And it is a major incentive for artists to engage in something that we're building, because that's the whole thing, right? We're rooting out those intermediaries. But the problem is that right now is just what Benefo has been pointing out, is that it's very, very difficult to convince anybody to buy some rock, you know, like it's because of the process. It's really, for your average layperson, they just won't do it. They just won't go through. It takes too much time, energy.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that that isn't an obstacle or a barrier to entry.
Right.
I'm just saying that I think like the music industry itself is already pissing a lot of people off too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. I mean, look, currently, I think with any platform, any music streaming blockchain platform, it's going to take, 5-10 steps to go from whatever the native currency is on that platform, and then the process of taking it out, converting it to Ether or Bitcoin, and then extracting it out of whatever wallet it's in and getting it into your bank account. And hopefully we will be able to be one of the platforms that has a much easier solution to be able to go from here's the rock or the rev, and you push a button and it suddenly turns into an American dollar and can go into your bank account. But we are certainly many, many, many steps away from that. And I think it's probably a conversation every platform is having, be they in music or video games, or just simply in the business of having an exchange, and how to simplify the process of going from crypto to fiat. Yep.
I don't know if a lot of platforms are having this discussion, because a lot of platforms are just betting on the fact that Ethereum will figure out how to scale. And they're just saying, well, they'll figure it out. Let's just keep going. You know?
I don't know. I disagree, because I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to get their money easily and quickly. And whoever is able to figure that out and put, again, the blockchain in the background is going to be one of the winners.
Yeah, I just, I go to different Ethereum events in LA to network and to meet different people who are very interested in what we're doing, because of the fact that we're not building on Ethereum. And they're like, oh, wow. There are people who are doing this outside of Ethereum who have a solution to scale. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, I want to check that out. I'm like, I'll bet you do. And then those people follow us on Twitter, and it's great. I'm just saying, like, you know, a lot of people are just wishing and hoping that other solutions will pop up, you know, and I think it's good that we're taking the reins and saying, what can we build that's already better, even if it takes some time, you know?
Agreed. I just want to point out that there are some subtleties here that need to be brought into the light.
I knew you were going to chime in. I knew that it was only a matter of seconds before you came in. I knew it.
I was talking with investors this morning, so I'm a little bit late. We are when you're talking about an exchange and trying to make, you know, like RSong have an exchange like built in, that means that RSong suddenly has to be a broker dealer, and that significantly complicates the offering. It's not trivial to just be an exchange. So you know, now if there's a card service that we can push this off to, there are some crypto services that offer these kinds of things. That's one thing, but we certainly, I don't think we want to bite off the you know, trying to build an exchange,
No.
you know, in the back end of RSong,
Mhm.
or dealing with all of the legal hassles of trying to be a broker dealer, which is non-trivial. So you know, I'm all for making things easier and smoother, but I also want to remind us of what our end goal is. You know, our end goal is not to support fiat currency. But what we're trying to do is to provide some impetus for people to move into the world of crypto, and ideally never have to go back to the world of fiat. Right? If our chain succeeds, then we can contemplate a world in which, you know, you can pay for all kinds of services. You know, you can pay for coffee, you can pay for groceries, you can buy a house, all kinds of things with crypto without ever touching fiat. And so, of course, we're not there, and there's a you know, a pretty significant path to get from here to there. But trying to do our best to support fiat, I think, is in direct opposition to our end goal. Our end goal is to help people move into the world of crypto, because that is ultimately where we will be.
I hear that. But we will still need to have the solution for people to get cash, because it's going to be a while until an artist or anybody can use crypto to be able to pay the high school to send their kids to school, or to buy a car, or to pay the rent. So it's going to be a little time, but I do hear that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, what we want to do is to make it easy for people to take, you know, a well-established crypto out to fiat. But there are lots and lots of services. So if we were to, you know, make a partnership with Coinbase or any of these other major services that make it relatively easy to you know, to trade to a fiat, or to a currency that makes it easy to trade to fiat, then that's a solution that is workable. I you know, yeah, my grandmother isn't likely to use Coinbase, but, you know, certainly you know, the a lot of people can use Coinbase.
Yep.
So
yeah, with the correct or some evangelism, increased evangelism, I think a lot of people will appreciate the advantages of cryptocurrency, and will actually prefer it, because you know, fiat currency is a lot of evils embedded in the concept of fiat currency. But yeah, I suppose that was the part of my interest lies in whether or not there is an interest in partnering with a platform like Stellar. because they'll use a consensus protocol to exchange currencies or tokens, and that's what I found was very exciting.
So it's my understanding that our chain has that capability already. Like we can do consensus against or atomic swaps against coins. Is that right, Greg?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
idea. So,
So
as we go out the, I mean, we're not going to have all the relevant pairs, but you know, as just right after Mercury, one of the important patches is to be able to do this with Ethereum at a minimum, and ideally Ethereum and Bitcoin.
I do have a question though, Greg, regarding some of the tokenomics. So, I'm assuming there will eventually be a token to on RSong. It's just a matter of time. Could you imagine that because there's going to be difficulty, as you just mentioned, with having the coin either listed in directly in the phone as being able to exchange back into fiat because you need a broker dealer license, or these very expensive long-term partnerships you have to start getting set up with Coinbase. Let's go down to the core of just the token. Would you imagine that the artists themselves could airdrop to their fans directly within the app?
Oh, that certainly is reasonable. Yeah, totally.
And then from there, it's a crypto token. So if someone else lists on the exchange, like, that's not on us, right? We're just the software providers of the platform.
That's exactly right. And by the time we have Rev going, we can be quite active in all the exchanges. So
I think it'd be quite easy, right? Because all you have to do is say, okay, claim you're an artist, bring over your music, and then you have a unique link that you send out to all your fans, and it's encrypted, so there's no one else can prove. If you claim, you have to claim against some sort. It should be a pretty easy way to connect everything, in my imagination.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, we will have an ERC-like mechanism. So there's a standard for creating and minting a new kind of token. So that is already available, because you can just take the existing token contracts on our chain right now and copy them, and up you go. And you've got your own token running on our chain. And that's pretty much the process that a lot of projects have followed. So we would certainly want to support that. But there's the flip side of that, of course, is a little bit difficult, right? We don't want the market to be flooded with all these tokens, right? So that becomes a little unwieldy as well. If there are 10,000 artists and 10,000 tokens, that's a problem, right? That's not a win solution. But you could certainly imagine that there's an RSong token which is stabilized against any volatility for Rev, right? So RSong is a stable coin, and then some artists may go the route of minting their own token, but most use the RSong token as the means by which they get out to market, right? And so we can make that path relatively straightforward by getting the tokens listed on exchanges, B, making sure that there's a way to cash out from the RSong token to a Rev, and making sure that the Rev is on all the exchanges. So that would smooth those paths. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Would the RSong native token be a utility token, or it would have to be, right?
Well, it certainly is,
Yeah.
right? You need the token in order to unlock features in the RSong application.
Understood. So, okay, so there's a difference between the ERC20 like token that an artist can create and the RSong token. Those are two different tokens. One is for features inside the app, and then I'm assuming the ERC like artist token would be features for a particular audience.
Yeah, well, features for a particular artist, right?
Artist, got it. Yeah.
Right. So the the audience can gain access. For example, I don't know if Radiohead releases on our song, maybe there's, it's only the Radiohead token that can be used to get Radiohead swag. So you just can't get any t-shirts and tote bags and coffee mugs unless you have a Radiohead with the Radiohead stuff, unless you have a Radiohead token. That would be an example.
Okay. And would you imagine that those tokens, those ERC20 like artist tokens, would they be liquid, meaning they would have trading pairs globally, or do you think that they would be more like coupons that you redeem back for the RSong native token, and you use that to purchase things either within the applications or on different websites around the world in an e-commerce setting?
I mean, the thing is that I would like to leave that entirely to the artist community, right? So it's really up to the artists, right? So I can imagine that there are big name artists, Beyonce comes to mind, who have already gotten somewhat savvy about the crypto possibilities. And so if she comes onto the RSong or the RChain platform and begins releasing content on RSong, then she would, and again, I'm not saying that we have any relationship with Beyonce, it's just an example, that she would have the wherewithal, the means, and the savvy to make her token global. Whereas, some kids starting out in the garage, they might, be hackers as well as musicians and hack up a token, but that's largely coupon status because they just don't have the means to get it listed on all the exchanges, right? So a wide range of capabilities seems to be something that we want to support, so that there can be this vibrant artist, economy that's sort of evolving and working itself out.
Right. Okay. Because I still imagine that the record labels will be the ones designing most of those token economics, with the exception of potentially independent artists or people that are just so fed up with the industry. But by and large, I would imagine that the record labels would come in and design a lot of them. The payments could be just as transparent.
The major labels are not going to be on RSong.
No, not the major labels, right? That's going to be years.
So it would be independent labels and independent artists, and that would be really up to them. I certainly see that there's an advantage, and we've talked about this before. There's an advantage for artists who have come under an independent label umbrella. It's very advantageous to have that label have its own token.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I just thinking for the big artists, like for Beyonce, like she, I think she decides more than like if she wants to move over to RSong, there's nothing stopping her. But in order to do that, it has to be like as fun as designing a CryptoKitty. Like, not that, you understand what I'm saying? It has to be fun and easy and interesting. Because if it's boring, then like you're not going to get like a lot of people engaged, right? If it's just like, oh, have your own liquid token, for music sharing and stuff, music streaming, it's like it's got to be more fun than just like pure economics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. So
Yeah.
what we're saying is that the token economic design has to be gamified as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's totally fair.
I mean, it's gonna be really sick, right? Because like imagine just like going into the system and throwing your album art onto, or album like art onto like your quote unquote digital token, and then right there, like, they have a little bit more color, and it's just more characteristics than like some dead ERC20 token sitting in Mist or whatever wallet you use, right? So I think there's a lot of fluidity there. You can start thinking about these type of things in that regard. Right?
No, I absolutely agree. Benefo, I missed a lot of the conversation when you just came on. Thanks for joining the conversation. Can you say a little bit more about your interest in RSong and the crypto space in general?
Yes, I find it fascinating, just the notion that so many people aren't aware of, from an artist perspective, that's my primary interest, not necessarily from a technological curiosity. It's just that people aren't aware of how lopsided the industry is. And even with the advent of streaming, it remains lopsided. The major labels have really co-opted the streaming services, and to the extent that the artists are still not receiving their fair share of their, they're the content creators. Without artists, there would be no profit. And yet it is disproportionately, it's just not an equitable for the artist. You have to wonder, what is the point? If you're going to spend your time creating and doing things that for a lot of people, just they have no choice. It's just a part of them to be creative and then to be exploited on top of that. So I have somewhat of a passionate interest in RSong, that if it would level the playing field and encourage people to produce their best work and not just the fodder that the major industry the labels are able to get mass adoption because they just plaster the music everywhere. I'm interested in a new world where the best music is enjoyed by the most amount of people. And I think that the RSong can actually facilitate that. Primarily because you'll get the younger artists who have perhaps not given up yet and are not so jaded to think that it's pointless, but you get the new and emerging artists involved with RSong, and then that becomes a de facto method or means by which you learn about new music. Because I see that as another issue. It's part of the problem with the stranglehold that the label continues to employ, is that if you don't hear about it through mass media, then it doesn't exist, right? Because there are quite a few acts out there that are really worth my time, but I don't know about them. So this could be a movement to correct and right all those wrongs and maybe remedy the situation and really be disruptive. And that's my interest in RSong.
Well, that's really good. That's really good news. I mean, what we've been experiencing is that with a lot of artists, the fair pay for fair play kind of equation has been not enough to get them really passionate about the RSong platform. And I would love to see a growing number of artists who get that piece of it. Right now, a lot of the response, the positive response we get, is because of the audio capability. And obviously, if you have both, you have premier audio capability, like stuff that is 10 years ahead of the rest of the market. That's good, and you have fair pay for fair play. That's also it's a winning combination, let's say. So, but I'm very encouraged to hear that someone is coming largely because of the transparent reporting and accounting. That's good news.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that, because I imagine that a lot of artists who have had even a nominal amount of success, or even less than that, but just the idea that you can be recouping and all these other mechanisms which really demoralizing if you think about it. I mean, I suppose I've attended maybe too many conferences where a person would say that I was signed to a major label and I was advanced $500,000 and the label decided to shelve my record and I don't own the masters. And so now I've spent all this time writing the music and I don't own it and I can't release it. I have to move on and they drop me anyway. But that's just the common typical story. So I think that labels should be eviscerated. I think that they serve no purpose now except to shovel fodder to the masses. And I think the masses will be better off without that because there's a lot of great music out there. So I'm surprised that people are more concerned with the audio capabilities. I mean, the artists that you're referring to, because in truth, the average person doesn't have the stereo system to reproduce it, to enjoy it. And the fact that they've accepted all the horrible compression and artifacts that are in MP3s and streaming right now, it hasn't deterred people from, streaming en masse. So I'm surprised that that's not enough of an incentive to get people excited.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was shocked and surprised too. 100%. But the nice thing is we get to have our cake and eat it too, in the sense that we've got both. We've got we've got the premier audio capability and the fair pay for fair play kind of capability. So I'm pretty excited that we've crafted an offering that is obviously world class. In all respects, right? From running on what is arguably the fastest, most secure smart contracting blockchain platform to date, and to having this reporting and accounting solution, to having the audio. It's hard to beat, and I'm looking for ways to reach out to artists to help help get the message out.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I think the message, once we have the platform, the beginnings of the platform for people to be invited and to walk in and start uploading and pushing buttons, it'll start the process of getting ambassadors for the platform.
I guess I'm still quite unclear about the network effects of the code itself, Greg, because when you say smart contracting, my understanding of smart contracting is you can eventually bolt on more features because you have the smart contracts living immutably on the chain. And if our song is incorporated in a closed system, you may not get code network effects. You may get the network effects through marketing artists, but I don't see how the system can grow if it's completely closed source.
Well, our song is not necessarily closed source.
Okay, can you explain how that would work then?
So the back end part of it is not closed source. And the back end is where all the smart contracting capability lives. It doesn't live in the player, right?
Okay, so we're separating the player from the back end. So if you're a dev and you're like, hey man, I actually use RSong, it's pretty cool. Now I want to come in and start bolting on features. Will the company decide what features get into the actual application itself?
Now that is a great question.
Right.
And I believe that should be done. I mean, like if it were entirely up to me, I'd do it the way open source communities do it, right? So features get proposed, the community of stakeholders that are interested, they get together, they make some decisions, and then a feature is incorporated, or potentially there's the fork of the code base, one that supports the features and one that doesn't. Right. So that to me that's an ideal world. Now maybe it requires more massaging to make into a decent business, but at least in terms of open source, that's been the way things happen for a long time now.
Right.
Yeah. And now the other interesting piece of this is that it's not necessarily the case that artists have to do a lot of coding in order to enjoy a certain amount of feature innovation. And this is because if we get to the place where the posts that people make with respect to the promotion of content are themselves smart contracts. With
Would you need middleware to do that, Greg?
no,
Really?
no, that runs entirely on chain.
So, okay, just very simply. So I want to promote through Twitter. How is the chain
Oh,
connected
no,
to
no, no,
Twitter?
not through Twitter, only through our client.
Okay.
Not interested in posts that are running on these centralized services.
Okay, so you would need middleware though if you wanted to do that, something like that, right?
If you wanted to go through, a third party client like Twitter or
Okay.
Facebook or whatever, yes, then of course you'd need.
That's
But
okay. Okay.
yeah, that's the different beast entirely. It's a good. Thank you for the clarification. So what we're imagining is that the client for RSong is a stream-based client, right? So when a user is using the system, it's the user is seeing a feed, right? And that feed is coming to the user because they're connected to friends on RSong that are sharing music and sharing their excitement about particular content. Like, oh, I can't wait for the new Sean release, right? Or oh, have you heard this song? And have you heard this new cover of that song? And that sort of thing. That's and all of that is ripe to be turned into smart contracts that carry their own wallets. So as they get promoted, so Abed is excited about the new Sean release and shares with Troy, and Troy first of all engages or clicks on the post, which then provides some kind of token-like boost to the post. As suddenly gets more engagement or attention-based tokens in its wallet, which gives it the capability to show up in other users' feeds who have a higher bar to command the user's attention. Let's say, then you can imagine that if Troy does anything more, like promotes it himself, right? Then there's tokenomics associated with that. So Troy could boost it by adding tokens to that post. So what would really happen behind the scenes is when Troy reposts, that creates another smart contract that's associated with that repost that has a relationship with the initial smart contract that Abed created by making his post. So now you're starting to see all kinds of dynamics that arise not by writing code, but because you have code interacting in these posts.
That makes sense, but so I imagine just very basically there's some sort of console. Now, how expensive is the filtering part to build the filter? So I only want to see dubstep coming in specifically out of Bristol, Leeds, Manchester. I don't want to see dubstep from Japan.
Okay, I mean that's not very expensive at all.
Perfect, dude. Then you're talking music to my ears, literally. I would literally just use the application just to play around with those features alone.
Yeah, I mean that's been the thinking for quite some time, right, Daryl?
Well, this is all going to be about hashtags as well. I mean, if we're able to hash Bristol, hash jungle, hash drum and bass, and then the search function is able to pull from those things, yeah, we should be able to do it.
Agreed.
So I imagine this is very similar to IRC in the sense that you join some sort of global network and it's decentralized, and then you could do it by country, right? yeah, there's ways to bootstrap this that I think that like you can get pretty rapid network effects in that regard. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But I think that the most important thing in all of this is that music is a social phenomena, and I'm really astonished that the big streaming companies don't really support this kind of social network aspects. I mean, SoundCloud is one that has really integrated the social networking aspects. But by and large, it's one of the most important aspects of music, which is that we do it, you know, and we share music. That's the that's the bottom line. What we want to do is to share music.
Man, I mean, this is all music to my ears now. So I do believe that there is a very simple reason why the major label supported streaming services are not embarking in any kind of social network type of functionality. And that is directly connected to how the major labels business model functions. It's the model that they're still clinging to, which is understandable because mainstream radio is still, terrestrial radio is still very powerful. So they are stuck in this model where they are the curators. Their model requires for them to be the curators. If they open the world up and allow people to share with each other, it's a direct threat to their model. So they specifically are preventing these streaming services from engaging in this way. But the closest thing we've seen in a mainstream streaming service that's major label supported that contains some type of social networking element is iTunes Connect, which was a pilot project that Trent Reznor took on back in the day when Beats was acquired by Apple, and they made this kind of big announcement. And if you've noticed, Connect has been kind of pushed away and pushed further away, and it's a massive failure. So that's the reason.
So just a question, Greg. You said that that SoundCloud is used socially, just for an example, but I would also just like to add, like personally, as someone who crate digs for music and buys quite a bit of music, Facebook is where, at least I would say, like 90% of where new drops for underground music come from. Sometimes they'll get released on SoundCloud, but like usually it's Facebook. So I don't know how. Again, I imagine you would want some middleware there, just as we're building our own social system. Does that make sense?
I've been thinking.
When you say middleware, what exactly does that mean?
It's just like basically you're connecting our RSong to Facebook, and you need some sort of middleware to do that, right? Because you don't own Facebook, so you need something in the middle to connect the two.
Being able to post a link. So if an artist uploads a song,
right, yep, it just goes right out to the Facebook feed, boom, and then until you have your own social network, or until this becomes its own social network, you're gonna have to interact, at least in my mind, with existing.
I think about that.
And I think it goes both ways too, right? So if something is posted on Facebook, not in the app, you can, as someone who is a consumer of music, I want to basically connect my Facebook feeds to RSong, and when I open my console, I'm getting a stream of all it'll make it's so much more fluid, dude, if it goes the other way around as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think, I discover a lot of music on Facebook because friends will post links, be it from Spotify or from YouTube or Apple Music, and it's a very easy way to spread music. And as we build out the different phases of RSong, that functionality of being able to share a link and share it via phone or email or Facebook or Twitter, it will definitely help us, one, spread the music of the platform, but two, to spread the gospel that the platform exists.
Yeah. So we've got a staff meeting coming up in 4 minutes.
Yes.
Maybe this is a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm. Works for me.
Awesome.
Sure.
Thanks,
Cool.
guys.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you all next
Thank
week.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Medico, for joining.
So happened.
All right. Ciao.
Some reason.